Welcome, everybody. This is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development Biweekly Call. I was actually, now that I'm going to do a quick detour in here. We've been trying to figure out what we call this call for quite a while, because Tuesday call is my Microsoft 365 Power Platform call with Microsoft presenters, and typically this is with the community presenters. I guess calling it developer biweekly call is fine. Hopefully that's not super confusing. If you have good ideas, add a comment in the chat. My name is Esa Juvonen. I'm a principal product manager in Microsoft 365 community side of the house, and today is November 23rd. It is Thanksgiving, but good to see quite a few people still in the call as well. Obviously, Thanksgiving is celebrated in the US, not on the rest of the world, so therefore we will keep on executing those calls normally. Today we'll go through a typical update on all of the different projects and all of that stuff, what's happening within them, and then we'll take a group photo, all of us together. I will keep the group photo ready to go on the slide, so I can see that everything is fine with that, and then we go to the actual starts of the day. So we'll start with Naveen, related on manage quick links and left navigation settings in SharePoint using PowerShell. That is a really, really cool demo for sure, because automation is the key here for sure. So looking forward on that one. Then Albert Jan Schot, who's going to join a bit late today, but he's joining quarter past roughly, and is going to have the second demo slot, which is running processes in the cloud with CLI for Microsoft 365. Looking really forward on that one. I can guess that's related on Azure functions and automations and all of that stuff. And then the final demo of today, I think everybody who knows Chris is probably waiting for this one. Whoever has never seen warrior horses, you will be amazed. There's always some new people within this call. But Chris is going to do some list formatting tips and tricks and with warrior horses, and that's definitely going to be entertaining session. Now, quick recap on all of the assets, what we have available. We have our YouTube channel, we have our LinkedIn group, which is for discussions and sharing findings. We have our open source assets, we have our sample galleries, and you can find all of this stuff from AKMS/community/home. Follow us on, subscribe on YouTube to know whenever the recordings are available, and you cannot get access on the recordings directly from the chat because external people cannot access the recordings from the Microsoft Teams. So therefore, within 24 hours, we always publish the community calls in the YouTube, so everybody can access that. We do have quite a few of these community calls. The first one being the every single Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time, we have the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call with Microsoft presenters. Now, word of warning there, we will be on a holiday break from 20th to 9th of January. That is actually 2 weeks. So we will have a call on 19th of December and 9th of January. So 2 weeks away where we will not have things. We'll probably show up and say community call on holiday break and all of that. So if you drop by, you will see that message within the call. On top of that, we have the Power Platform monthly call, Office Analytics monthly call. Those are happening normally in December. And then we have our Microsoft 365 Power Platform community and Viva Connection and SharePoint Framework community calls happening Thursdays at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Within these, for the 2 weeks, which are falling on the holiday season, we'll have coffee and tea moments or whatever is your preference drinking. And so we can chat, answer Q&A, all of that stuff. So we will not cancel those calls, 7 a.m. this time slot where we are right now, it will not get cancelled. We'll be here to talk about whatever questions you might have on whatever topics within the Microsoft Cloud. So we'll definitely keep the calls. We don't want to cancel them, but we don't have specific demos. So we might do ad hoc thing, but we'll see how it goes. You can see all of the or download all of the recurrent invites from community calls URL, and then you can see the agendas for all of the calls a week advance, roughly at AKMS/community meetup. Great way of subscribing there. If you subscribe there, which is free, you will get a notification within your email on whenever the agendas are being published. Super convenient. Next week on Tuesday, we have 2 demos on 28th of November. We have Dan Walling talking about using Microsoft Graph to retrieve emails and calendar events for your solution. This is actually interesting. We do have a second demo, which is a bit of similar topics because I think Dan is talking about Graph Toolkit, but also Sebastian Levert is going to talk about the latest new super cool component, which is the Graph Toolkit chat component within next Tuesday. So full call dedicated for Microsoft Graph, which is powering our Microsoft Cloud integrations, powering Copilot, powering Power Platform integrations and all of that. So looking forward on that one. Next week is also the ESBC. So some of us might be actually blocked on joining this call, but Seb and Dan will be there, and David Warner is going to host this call on next Tuesday. Now, On the community calls, there's a lot of community calls. We do welcome you to do demos in these. We love community demos. So we do not accept product demos, but we want to, if you have built anything, it doesn't have to be open source. If you have some learnings to share, if you have some experiences to share, please sign up within the form and we'll find you the right slot within our set of community calls which are available and get you scheduled. It's a great way of getting some exposure. If you're looking into getting MVP, if you have already an MVP and you need to get renewed, these are actually really well taken opportunities to get those renew points within your MVP status as well. So everybody is welcome to do demos in here. And all of the topics are welcome. Anything in Microsoft 365 Power Platform, please submit. We also have our Sharing is Caring initiative. So if you are not super familiar with the samples, super familiar with things, Sharing is Caring initiative is there to help you get started. We've been a bit busy on this autumn. We're trying to get back on track on scheduling these. I know that David and Hugo and many of the other Sharing is Caring initiative drivers and coordinators are pushing forward on many of these topics. And so you will see more scheduled events in spring. And these are really intended to be the easiest way to get started. So quite often we tend to be not, let's say, open when we don't know something like, do I know really well GitHub? Well, no. What about having a session where we explain how GitHub actually works and how to get started? Well, that sounds interesting. I'll join and we can learn from there. And they are safe spaces and nothing is recorded. So you can actually join on there and learn those topics. As you then join and start contributing, hopefully in the community side, you are welcome to receive our community badges. And this is something where you need to sign up, but any contribution within anything what within our community areas is accounted for, and you will at least receive the contributor badge. And depending on where are you contributing, you might get additional badges. Now, right now we are in the season of Gidding, which is our own dedicated badge for this season area. So as long as you are sharing or submitting a pull request, which is getting merged within our community channels, you will actually get the season of Gidding correctly patch as well. Super cool stuff. But please remember the sign up for these things as you have done the pull request or change within our contributor. Now let's then go to the project specific updates and move into the PnP.NET libraries. And I think Bert is on the call to cover this.
Yes, I'm on the call. Thank you, Vesa. For the .NET libraries, I think the biggest change we did in the last period is adding support for .NET 8. So .NET 8 was launched middle of November, and now we have native support, so meaning native binaries compiled for both PnP framework and CrossDK as part of the package. So if you want to use the latest of .NET, you can use that using PnP as well. Furthermore, on the CrossDK side, we had like a bit of a clumsy way to define internal field names. If you wanted to really own that, set that yourself in code, that's been made much more easier. So that's good. And there's some text being dropped. I see, at least on my screen, like the leave themify loop. Something else should be there. But the thing is that we have a themify operation where you actually add a team's theme to an existing site with a group, and that was kind of kept on trying if the team was already there. So there was some issue with that. So that's being fixed. And overall usage is pretty stable. You see at the right side, kind of a similar amount of traffic, around 40 billion requests. And the number of tenants kind of jumps a bit around the 200K. So I think all good there. Let's move to GauTM for PowerShell then. Thank you all.
It's pretty. There we go. Now I'm unmuted. That's pretty cool. 200,000 tenants using this component. That's pretty mind-blowing. So GauTM, your turn.
Yep. Thanks, Bert. Thanks, Vesa. As you can see, the text is overflowing from this particular screen because we have tons of updates here in PnP PowerShell. What we did, one major thing that we did was we added the batch support to the invoke PnP SP REST command. So whenever you want to make requests to the SharePoint APIs, you can also make them as part of a batch call. So that makes your job a lot more easier. We also added the get PnP site set version policy progress. rs command to get the to retrieve the progress of site version policy setting. Also, quite a few commands got improved, like the PNP Teams picture or PNP flow and the get PNP folder commands as well. We also added a retry mechanism to the submit PNP search query as well, so it will make your job a lot more easier as well. Also, quite a few parameters were added to the PNP tenant commands so that you could now enable sensitivity labeling for the PDF files as well. Besides that, we improved the PNP Azure AD user, flow owner, and the removal of the flow owner commands to handle the apostrophe as well. What else? Would absolutely love to hear from you. What you would love to have in this PNP in the PNP PowerShell. So feel free to reach out to us as well. Thanks. Over to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you, Gautam. And that number is 42,000 tenants using PNP PowerShell. These are mind-blowing numbers, considering where all of this started as a community-driven small initiative. So, moving into Rick, who's going to cover your teams.
Hey, good afternoon, evening, and good morning, everyone. So for the teams generated, we're still updating it to see if we can handle all the new capabilities that were announced at Ignite, like Copilot, because that goes through the messaging extension. So we want to add that maybe to the Yo Teams generator. That will be pretty cool if we could do that. We're still at the preview.3 because we had some issues in there, so we're still not going live with the v4.1.1.1. But we're still looking for contributors and people who would like to help us, because we catched it at the last minute that there was an issue, or at least I catched it before I wanted to release it. So good, I saw it. So if anybody wants to help out, we're always looking for contributors, and you get a nice badge, so that's always cool. Over to
really cool.
You back, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you, Rick, on that one. Really very cool. Now, on the Teams Toolkit side, John Miller is celebrating Thanksgiving, so I will quickly recap this one. So the Teams Toolkit in VS Code is a 5.3, is the latest pre-release, and there's a create simplified message extensions, sample gallery search, all of that stuff has been improved. Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio, 17.8 preview, new template options, simple bot link unfurling, custom search results, a lot of cool stuff. And the CLI is kind of the third part. So all of the things what you can do in VS Code extension can also be performed in the Teams Toolkit CLI, and a lot of improvements on that side as well. Now, the Copilot plugins and simplified message extensions, all of that is actually rolling out as well. So as we get more and more customers who have access to Copilot, they can now start building Copilot plugins and then automations with the Copilot using the Teams Toolkit. So Teams Toolkit is also the tool for there. There's also more additional integrations coming in Office add-in side within the Teams Toolkit. So more and more we centralize that development from Microsoft side to the Teams Toolkit from that perspective. Now on the Craft Toolkit side, we have Sebastian Levert straight from Canada. Talking about the latest. Montreal, right?
Straight from the cold.
Yes.
So
it's cold here as well. So
first, big news is our 3.1.3 release was made available. Please update your packages to do that. Quite cool stuff happening over there. I think the biggest news for this week is finally the public preview of our MGT chat. We're going to talk about that next week in the platform call, but now you can embed Teams conversations in your applications. And you can see a little video.
Ja, ich hatte nicht mehr ganz so frisch hier. Ja, freilich.
Let me do a mute all. There we go. Please continue, Sam.
That's okay. So really, really cool stuff happening there. We have a blog post. I'm going to put the blog post in the chat so you can have a look. It's fully working. Please have a look. Bring that to your React apps and see if there's any fit into bringing Teams chats inside your own applications. We also published 2 new samples and starter templates to our sample gallery. So aka.ms/mgt/samples. And we're kind of very busy these days. We are going to release our version 4 of the Graph Toolkit by the end of the year. So have a look over there. We're upgrading our foundational dependencies to lit version 3 for our web components. We're also supporting tree shaking. So basically, if you only use one component, you're only going to bundle one, and a bunch of other updates. So go have a look. If you want to test it today, npm install mgt at next, and we'd love your help. Bring your issues, bring your feedback. We'll be more than happy to hear what you have to say and collaborate with you to making the Graph Toolkit even better. Back to you, Vesa.
Thank you, Seb, on that one. And then moving into Paul, talking about script samples, cross Microsoft Graph and CLI and PnP PowerShell and all of that cool stuff. What's new, Paul?
Indeed, very cool stuff. So I've had some wonderful contributions from the community, so thank you very much. So just to run through the list, we've got list apps and teams and tenant by Naveen Rajdev for the CLI for 365 sample. We've got a Microsoft Graph sample, which is it was a dual submission, so which was super cool. List apps with teams in a tenant by Smita Nashan. We've also got new scenarios with Microsoft Teams PowerShell, so fetching Teams information to Teams PowerShell and exporting to CSV by Chandani Prajapati. We've got 4 new samples for PnP PowerShell, so reorder content types in a SharePoint list by Aman. I've created one for enabling the disabling search crawling on sites and libraries. We've got one from Casper Larson, export and import library folder structures. We've got hide CL button and highlighted content by Reshmi Aklu. We've got some updates. So Kanash did some quality updates. So on the hide CL button highlight button and content web part sample. And then we've got the Power Apps PowerShell sample, which is getting all the Power Apps in a tenant by Jimmy Hank. So this is super cool. So we obviously cover a range of tooling. So if you've got any samples you want to share with the community, by all means, I'm happy to engage with you. If you want to reach out to me via GitHub, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pigeon, by all means, send that through, and I can help you get connected and get you contributing. So and also there's a badging for you. So we've got a 1, 2, 3 star badges. So depending on the level of contributions, which is we've got quite a number of people that are level 3 actually, which is amazing. So thank you very much for all those samples, and back to you, Bessa.
Excellent, thank you, Paul. I did try the Pigeon messaging, but you haven't responded on that one. So let's see which address that one.
There was something that hit the window though, so the other day. So maybe it was that.
This is a family show, Paul. This is a family show. No, this is good. Anyway, so quickly on the Microsoft Teams samples, we do have 20 new samples available at AKMS M365 Copilot samples. And again, you might be wondering, Teams samples, Copilot samples. Well, it is the same technology. We're using in the Copilot, we're using Microsoft Teams messaging extensions as a plugins, and then there's the Microsoft Graph connectors to feed the content before into the index or semantics index, and all of that is available. So a lot of cool samples available in both sides, and we're looking into starting a sample series on the Microsoft 365 Copilot samples in January within the Tuesday call. So we'll probably go through all of the samples one by one, explain people how they work and what's the benefit and all of that. So that should be super cool within 2024. Now on the Power Platform prompts, do we have? I'm just double checking. Anybody? 1, 2, 3. I'm checking. April is out today. I know, and nobody else is actually covering this. So we do have Power Platform prompts, which is something what we're collecting as well. And these are really intended to be scripts and validated prompts for the Power Platform AI and Power Platform Copilot to automate things. And those are basically the prompt directories. And from there, we basically are welcoming people to share prompts which work or prompts which were really cool, and they come out and you were able to automate things within a Power Platform. Really cool initiative driven by April and Daniel. Now, before we go to the actual demos, actual stars of today, which is the demos, let's start with the group photo. Those who are willing, let's enable the camera. We do have a bit smaller attendance today, because it is the Thanksgiving, so it's completely understandable. But I guess we have a few US-based people here as well. I will enable my camera for me as well. Oh, there I am in the front row. Woo! Let's wait a few more minutes. We'll still get, 20, 30 people enabling video. This is really cool. Few more seconds. It always takes a while. And it's not super pixelated. This is really cool. A lot of familiar faces as well. Good. Let me actually start the recording. 3, 2, 1, and let's do some hand waving, everybody. Yay! Excellent. That will be good. And Seb is doing Seb's example on this is really good. We should try to do wave at some point in this. That's going to be really interesting because everybody is located in their own things. But thank you for that one. I will grab a GIF animation out of that. And then we go to the actual stars of the day. So we're going to start with Naveen. Then we're going to move to Abby, who's probably already joined or joining a bit late today. There was a overlapping for him, and then Chris Kent as the final demo. But Naveen, are you good to go?
Yeah, thank you.
Audio works as well.
Yeah, so let me share my screen, guys.
Yes. And I can see, well, still dark. There we go. Now we can see the teams starting. Not sure if this is the one. Oh, here we go. Now we're in PowerShell. Let's zoom up a bit so we can we older people like me, older people, especially on the script side, we need to zoom a bit. But other than that, take it away.
Yeah, let me give a brief of this script first. So we have the PowerShell script where we are creating a lot of document libraries. Correct. So I have got a requirement from a client where he wants to generate like a dynamic document library where end user will go and have a form where they can input their document library name if they want to add the folder. Behind the scene, I can run the PowerShell script and it gets created. But their second requirement basically was like when the document library gets created, it must getting added in this area of the quick link as well. It must be dynamic. It not be like anyone will come and add it on the page. OK, so I have written a PowerShell script which is actually going to do the same task. So what I did basically is like I have created a SharePoint list where I'm adding all those existing links in that SharePoint list. And when the user, so I'm not going to show the interface here, but we can do with the interface where we can have like a Power Apps Canvas app where we are going to get the input for all the document libraries which are getting created. Behind the scene, what will happen, like the data will go and saved in the SharePoint list. When the data will get saved in the SharePoint list, I'm actually triggering a logic app, and in the logic app, I'm triggering a Azure function. In that Azure function, I have actually scheduled that PowerShell script. So I am going to show that PowerShell script, and I'm going to run it manually, which is actually, you can see I have hard coded this value. You can see like I have PNP PowerShell community as a title. I have given the URL as this, and now I am going to run it. You can see the PowerShell script is still running. Yep. Yep. The PowerShell has completed its running. So I'm going onto the page. I have not refreshed the page yet, but you guys can see like currently I have like 4, 3.7 and 3.10 quick links here. So as I have ran the PowerShell script, now I am refreshing the page. And you can see PNP PowerShell community has been added in the quick links. And the good part of this script is like it is actually sorting all those quick links. And I'm just editing the page. And you can see like it is also adding the target audience in the quick links. So this is the first script which I have wrote. Yep, Wagner. Any questions, guys?
Is that a so I think there's so many people in the call, but so we cannot really go to the chat too much. But are you using what techniques are you using for adding the links and processing the page? Is that using the PNP PowerShell, or what's happening behind the scenes?
So what will happen, like, this is the code which I have took out from the SharePoint, which is actually generating when we are adding the quick links on the page. So when you will go into the underscore layout kind of thing, I have got this code from there and I have added that code in the quick links. So you can see I've simply used this to call that function and I'm passing all the quick links, because what I did basically is I'm adding all those in the SharePoint list, all those quick links in the SharePoint list first. Let me open the SharePoint. Oh, yeah, here you can see, like, I have maintained the list here. So all the quick links which are already on the page, they are available here. But if any new will come, that will again getting added here. So that if I will add one more new quick links on the page, it will going to pick up all these quick links and will add the new entry here.
Cool. And you're using, clearly, I can see from the script also that you're using PnP PowerShell commandlets to automate the manipulation of the page and the web part. So that was cool.
Yes. Yeah. The good part is, like, you don't have to do the manual interaction kind of thing where owner of the page will go and create the quick links, add the links and sorting and all those things. So this script will like a complete package kind of thing where it will do the adding of the newly created document library links, add the target audience, and it will sort them automatically on the page.
Really cool.
So moving on, my second PowerShell script. Yeah. So the first one is actually adding the link on the page itself. This script is actually going to add the link on the left hand side navigation. So I'm giving it, like, if you can see, like, I've added PnP PowerShell Community 2 as a title. I'm giving URL as the google.com and I'm saying, like, it will be in the quick launch. So I'm going to run it, and before running it, I'm going to show it, like, it is going to add under core activities because I want the specific link to be added under this. So if you can see, like, I have the PnP PowerShell script, but this is PnP PowerShell Community. So I am going to create PnP PowerShell Community 2 on the same left-hand navigation. So I'm running the script now. Again, this script is going to run it. It is going to create the new quick links in the left-hand navigation, and it is going to sort the navigation as well. Still running. Yeah, it has completed. So I am going to refresh the page now. So I'm opening the core activities now. And you can see PnP PowerShell Community 2 has been added. And the good part is it can sort the quick link automatically.
Which is absolutely cool as well. Now, Naveen, are these available somewhere on the scripts, or is this something what you've kept on your side?
So I've kept it on my side, but I'm happy to upload if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Paul is more than happy to help you if you're interested in sharing that within the PnP script gallery, definitely. And these are really cool automation scripts. Or you can put them in your own GitHub and get them shared as well for people. But awesome stuff.
Happy to do it. Yeah, happy to do it.
good logistics and using OpenSSL PnP PowerShell and then manipulating the objects. Really, really cool stuff. Are we good, Naveen, with that one? Just double checking. Cool. I guess from a timing perspective, this is good as well. Thank you, Naveen. Really, really cool automations, definitely worthwhile. And it's always good to have scripts which are automating the site configurations, so you're able to rebuild, for example, developer test and production environment. So definitely awesome stuff there. Now, let's then move into the next demo within the show. Albert Jan Schot is here joining and talking about the running processes in the cloud with CLI for Microsoft 365. There's Appy. Here we go.
And there we should have sound.
Yep, audio is here.
Cool. Let me share my screen as well. And there, everything should be shared.
Yep, we can see the screen. Take it away.
Cool. So I've got 3 slides, and then we're actually going to do demos because demos are the cool stuff, right? Even more scripting. For those who don't know yet, the CLI for M365 is a way to automate stuff on your M365 tenant. And what we're going to talk about today is running it in Azure containers, because the CLI is actually providing you with a Docker container. You can run that in the Azure container instances. So I want to show some samples that does exactly that. Now, if you don't know the CLI for M365, I see that I even put in a really old version. Obviously, that should be 7.2 rather than 3.4.0. But CLI believes that we should be able to run and manage your M365 environment from any platform. So it's a cross-platform way to manage M365 services with regardless of the platform or tool chain. It should be easy to use, and once you're signed in, it should just work. It's a great way, at least I would say, to manage your M365 environment. And that means that it runs on any OS, so Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. It runs on any shell, PowerShell, Bash, Commander, whatever it's your picks. And it's one login. You sign in once, and then you can manage all those different services that make up the M365 experience. Now let's go to demos. If you want to learn more, aka.ms/CLI M365 link will be posted in the chat and is part of the slides. But if you go there, we've got some help. It contains all the details that you need to get started. If you want to install it locally, make sure you have npm installed, and you can do the npm global and the CLI for M365. But the cool thing is you can actually run it in a Docker container. And if you are aware, within within Azure Container Instances, you can actually pull in Docker containers. So what I did is I created a Azure Logic app, and that Azure Logic app will actually take care of everything we need to do. Just to make sure that we don't have to wait, I will run this demo, and it's going to take like a minute or two to do everything. In the meantime, we walk through what actually is happening. So let me edit this Logic app, and let's see what it creates. 1, 2, 3. So what I did is I put this one on a recurrence trigger. Obviously, you can use any trigger you like. And within Logic Apps, what you can do is you can create a Azure Container Instance. Now, in order to create a Azure Container Instance, you'll need a container group and a container name. So I created 2 variables called container group, container name. I put in a somewhat unique number, namely the ticks for the current date time, so that if I run it multiple times, I at least know that I have multiple container instances rather than it tries to create one that already exists. But here is where the magic happens. There is an action to create a container group or create or update a container group. And if you use this, you'll need to specify where that Azure Container Instance needs to be created. So you specify a subscription ID, a resource group, you give the container group name, you'll have to specify the location. So I put this one in the central US location, and then you actually can configure what you want to do with that container instance. And what we want to do is we want to specify the container image, and we're going to say, make sure to pull in the CLI M365 latest Docker container image that is out there. We always want to have the latest and greatest. Now, we don't really care about the amount of CPU and request memory because we're not doing too much complex stuff. So the container itself shouldn't need too much resources. This is just the minimum, should be good for this sample scenario. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to say in this container image, what we want to do is we want to run a bash command, and we want to run this specific script, and we're going to give in some additional segments. So segment 3 and segment 4, this is actually the user ID that we're passing in, and this is the site that we're passing in. Now, obviously, you can add additional segments. What this means is it will try to run a script. Now, obviously, if you pull in a Docker container, that script is not there yet. So what we need to do as well is we'll need to move down a little. And if you spin up an Azure container image, what you can do is you can hook up a Git repository to it. So what we do is we say, okay, we're going to load in this specific Git repository. We give it a volume name called Git repo. And what that will do is it will actually pull in this specific Git repo where I make sure that there are several scripts. So if you remember, we called demo3.sh, and here you see that it will try to execute this specific script. This script will set some config, and then it will do a SharePoint user list for any given site. So what we did is we passed in a specific site URL. So if all is correct, what this would do is it will try to get all the external users for that given site. Now, this is just part of the solution, because if you want to do this, you have to make sure that permissions are in place. And what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to specify the permissions, or I didn't want to make sure that this run, I want to do this in a secure way. So what we are doing, we're actually assigning a user assigned managed identity to this specific Azure container instance, meaning that any script that gets executed in this Azure container instance actually uses that managed identity to do everything. So here you see you can specify the container group managed identity, user assigned managed identity, and you need to do two things for that. You have to make sure that the managed identity that you specify actually is contributor on the resource group. Otherwise, we cannot check what the current status of the Azure container instance is. And because we're running scripts against our M365, we need to make sure that it has Microsoft Graph permissions. So for instance, if you want to do something with sites, we want to make sure that it has sites read all. If you do something with files, you need to do the read write all, group read all. If you want to do things with teams, you need additional permissions. So based on the types of scripts that we're trying to run, you might need some additional permissions here, but it's easy to hand out those permissions if you know how that works. Now, with that, that's all we need to do to spin up our Azure container instances, load a specific script, and then what happens is the container instance gets created. What we then can do is we can just start pulling it up until the moment that it is succeeded. So what we do is we retrieve the properties of the container group, we check those properties to be succeeded, and if they are succeeded, what we'll do is we'll get the logs. And if they're not succeeded yet, we're going to wait for 10 seconds. And once that we're done, if we do get the logs, we can delete the container group because we no longer need it. The script has been executed and we do have the logs. Now, if I go back, it should be finished by now. And let's have a quick look at how that looks. Here you see that it pulled it for 5 times. Can move on to the 5th iteration. There we go. And what you will see is if I go to get logs from container instance, here you see that I get a JSON blob back that says, oh, apparently there is Albert-Jan Schot as an external user on this environment. This is his email address, is not expiration, is share email. So all the properties that you would get for an external user are shared. Apparently there is another one. So I get the JSON of all the external users for the site that I put in. Now, this is running it as a sample scenario with a bash script. Obviously, you can do the exact same thing as a PowerShell script. So if I go to the other sample scenario, what it is here is I can run it with a payload. And what I'll need to do is I'll need to say this is script, and then I'll need to figure out what the correct script is. So I think it was it's demo 5, too many demos. So what I can do is I can say I'm going to do demo5.ps1. Let's run it. It's going to take a second. And what you will see is there will be a new run being started. The only difference is, and I'm going to look through one that's already finished to make sure that we're not wasting too much time. This is the trigger that uses when an HTTP request is received. Here you see that I passed in demo5.ps1, and instead of running the bash script, it's almost the same. It's still starting the container with my demo5.ps1, and here you see this is a slightly different script. So what demo5 as a script does, let me go to the script, this is actually retrieving all the redirect sites that I have on my environment. So any site that I gave a different URL, if I did a rename site or change the URL, this will check all those sites. So it will retrieve them. Then for each site that it retrieved, it will try to see if it can still be found. And it will explain to me saying, okay, the redirect still does exist. So the target location where it redirects to still exists. Or if your target location has been deleted, so you rename the site and you then deleted the new site, the redirect still exists on your environment. This will tell me, oh, this target no longer exists, should be removed. So I get sort of a report that explains some stuff. So let's see if it's already done here. I can go to the 6th iteration. Gonna take 1 or 2 seconds. There we go. 6. And if I go here, if I read the logs, what I will see is, okay, apparently I have a mail test that has been redirected to mail test old. It still does exist. Apparently I also have some hub site, some renamed hub site. Hey, the new location no longer exists and should be removed. Obviously, I can expand this script to, rather than reporting what needs to be done, automatically delete all those samples. So if you want to get a glimpse of what is possible, if you go to the sample script location, we do have a bunch of sample scripts out there with samples around the Power Platform or Power Automate, around SharePoint Online, around Teams, and all those different samples can be run within the Docker container. And all you need to do to do that is have either a logic app or a function to create your Azure container instances, load in the correct GitHub repository, and make sure that you have a managed identity that has contributor permissions on the resource group that you're actually doing stuff, or have the enterprise application registration with the appropriate Microsoft Graph permissions to retrieve everything. And with that, that was my 12 minutes of demo.
Excellent, right on the schedule. This is awesome, and I can see Chris on the call as well. Really, really cool. This is super, super useful as a reference point. Thank you, Abby, on showcasing how it can be done in Azure easily. Cool, good. Chris, is it going to be turkeys or is it going to be horses? What are we doing today?
Well, what do you think? It's the Thanksgiving Day in America. So let's head on over here. Let's share the screen. Let's see. All right. We got it?
Yeah, we got it. Take it away.
All right, everybody. I'm Chris. Happy Thanksgiving to all of my non-American viewers. Here we go. Let's head on over to everyone's got a turkey site, right? Our Gobble site here. And on our turkey site, we're going to be doing some exciting things here. The turkeys have a number of issues they want to deal with, right? So they thought they might come over here and add a new list. And right here under the templates, we've got this issue tracker from Microsoft. Very nice. It's got some pre-populated stuff here. They're really just bragging about these choice columns, and that's nice, and some group views, and that's cool. We're going to use that. Now I've gone ahead and created it so I didn't have to enter the sample data in front of you. So let's go and head over there. Sorry, I think my headset keeps muting me. All right. Everyone can hear me though, right? Woo. All right, good. All right, well, if you can't, that'll be great. All right, so we've got our issue tracker list here. Again, it's just the default list here. The only thing I've done is made a couple of the fields required that are not. Just save time. So the title field's required. Now the issue description is required. We come in here and we can do that for a couple more of these, right? So column settings, we're going to edit our priority. The thing we're going to do with priority is we're going to set a default value to normal. And then we're going to make that required as well. All right, so we'll just come in here and say require that. Yeah, great. So now we got that required. We come into status. Again, this is the standard. I think it's very good. There's just a couple things I don't like. Like, I don't want people to be able to add their own status value. No, thank you. All right, and again, I want to require that. And then we're going to come over here, and we're going to make date reported, make that a little friendlier as well, just by making the default value today's date. Boom. There we go. And then finally, this one's the one that bothers me. It's called images, but it's a single image column. So let's just rename that to image. All right, and let's change this description to a photo or image. And that's not really important, but that's for me, and that makes me feel better. So there we go. All right, so now we've got that, and that's exciting. So now this thing's a little better, but we can go a little further. If we head over and let's add a few samples here, right? So if we head over here to our list formatting samples repo, we head over to our groupings view. We can see like by column type. When we come on down, we know we've got an image column. Because this image column is okay. We can click it, right? And we get the image real big, and that's one thing. But why don't we get a sample we've already got here under its image called the image lightbox. Now, all I have to do is click on one of the JSON files here, click on the advanced one, hit this copy button, come on back here, and I'm going to go over to image. I'm going to column settings. I'm going to format this column, and I'm just going to paste that thing I just copied, preview that. There we go. Save that guy. And so now what's happening is now I can see these images right here in a nice little light box. Very, very cool. Right? Changed your life forever. So that's pretty cool. So just adding a quick sample is pretty awesome. Now we can also come over here and we can do a little formatting ourselves, right? So if we want to take this date reported, for instance, make that a little more helpful. We'll come in here and we'll go column settings. We're going to format this column. We're going to advanced mode. Let's see if we can make this a little bigger. There we go. And then we're going to just come on here and we're going to try and add some stuff here. So we're going to say it's an Elm type of, say, a span, right? Because it's just some text. All right, then our text content, or we can say is the @current field. And if we say just @current field, right, it's mostly going to be fine. It's just going to be the date. But just to make sure we get any kind of display things we want, we're going to say display value. That's, again, it's not going to change anything here. But on certain types of fields and other stuff, like certain currency fields or the way you might have date with time and other things specified here, use the display value. That's going to make it look a lot better. And finally, we haven't done anything new, so let's add something here. All right, so let's add our attributes, and we're going to add ourselves. Whoa, not bad. Silly, silly. All right, now we come in here, we're going to say our class, right? So we're just going to set this dynamically. And we're going to say if the current field, so that's that date time, right, is less than, we're going to say add days to now of -7. So we're going to say, right, if it's older than 7 days, then I want you to be MS font color red, and you can be MS font weight bold. All right, and otherwise, don't worry about it. Now let's preview that. Ooh. Now we've got this idea that anytime it's older than 7 days, right, we're going to go ahead and mark it as red. But you can see like that doesn't really make sense if things are completed. So we can add an additional condition here, right? We could say, and our status, right, is not equal to completed, something along those lines, right? And we do that. Now we can take that out. I think we get a little more creative with that. I'm going to just go ahead and copy one where I've got a few more things just because we've got a couple of statuses that are more final, right? And I've swapped that now. So I'm saying just look at, instead of saying where it's not completed, I'm saying and, right, it's either new or in progress or blocked, right? I found that was a little easier. And so if I save that, it looks the exact same, right? But now we've got ourselves some nice formats. Woo, this thing's getting real nice. I'm very grateful for this list. Happy Thanksgiving. All right. So, but let's take a look at something else we could do, right? So let's take a look at that form. I'm going to show you a little trick here. So we got this form. It's okay, right? It's this limited form style. And we've taken a look before. You can configure layout. And you can come in here and you get our body. And if you happen to know the magic syntax, right, you can start to write it here. And you can say, our sections, and that's going to be an array. And each of those arrays is going to have, an item, right? And that's going to have a display name, right? You're going to say section 1 and so on and so forth, right? And that's okay. You could do that, right? And then you would say like fields, and then you would start to specify those fields by the display name and so on. And that's okay. But here's a trick I'm going to show you, is that you don't have to define all that stuff yourselves. All you really have to define is the first part of that. So I'm going to show you a sample that has this in it right here. So all I'm doing is define the sections of the display name. Not going to define any of the field stuff because that's a lot of typing. And I don't want to do that, right? Preview that it doesn't do anything because there's some weird stuff. I close it. It's got like double forms. Don't worry about any of that. All you're going to do is refresh to make sure it took. Right now, when we open that, what we have now is these extra sections. Right? We have 3 sections, but they have nothing in them. And here's the trick. Wow, we can hit edit columns, and we can actually just drag these things around right into our section. So I didn't have to type that stuff. Woo! Less typing is great. Right? So now I can say our issue descriptions up here, date reported, issue logged by, right? Our issue source, and our image will leave status and assigned to. We'll hit save on that. Again, it might look a little wonky sometimes here, so I'm going to refresh. Wonky is the official technical term. All right. Now, one thing that we saw, or didn't see actually, is that our attachments, which has been renamed to associated files in this template, wasn't one that we could drag around. Now I want that up in the additional information, so that, for whatever reason, attachments doesn't play nice. But once we've done all that, we can just come in here and do that one ourselves, right? So we're going to say comma. We don't worry about into our formatting, associated files, because as soon as we hit that preview, it's going to fix the formatting for us. There we go. Associated files is now up there in the additional information. Wowee! That's exciting. All right, so now we've got a nice form, and that was a cool trick to not have to type in all of those display names. Right, now we can go take a look at a couple of other things. All right, so we have these cool group by fields, right? So group by status, that's neat, right? So it's got all the status and it's group by. One thing that is kind of an irritation to me, right, is I've got this cool format that they've already set up, right? I've got my pills set up, maybe I've even customized them, whatever it is, and they look cool here. And if I filter right, they're going to show up some there, but what they're not doing is show up in the group, and that's annoying. So why don't we change that? So what I'm going to do for that is I'm just going to go here, I'm going to column settings, I'm going to format this column. All right, so I've gone through, I've changed my choices around, maybe I want to, I don't know, let's edit the styles. Right now, duplicate gets an icon of people. That sounds great. All right, that's the only one. But the idea is it's just I customize it slightly. You don't have to customize it, but I did. You can come down here, advanced mode. Whether you customize it or not, advanced mode is going to have all of this stuff in here. I don't care what it says. I'm just going to hit Control A. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to close that thing. And now what I want to do is I want to apply a group, right? So here is another thing we're going to say, which is the format the current view. Say advanced mode. And I have another starter for you. So I'm going to go grab on my other screen. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste that thing in. Whomp. Now I'm using clipboard history, which is why I don't care that I'm copying and pasting multiple things. I'll show you that in a moment. Make sure you turn that on if you're on Windows. All right. So the idea is I've got this. If I preview that, all it's really done is taken out the value, right? So I have this section here where I've got the column display name and I've got the count just like I had before, but I have this empty section. And I'm going to hit Windows V to get my clipboard history. So I grab that one I copied before. So this is that column format for status, right? I'm just going to paste that sucker in. It's going to look terrible. Add a comma. I'm going to come to the very top of it. Blah, 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 blah. All that stuff's in there that it generated for me. That's very fun. I'm just going to delete the schema because that's not necessary. It won't break anything to leave it, but I'm going to take it out. And then if I preview that, it's not actually going to work, right? But because it's referencing the status column everywhere, right? So if we look down here, it's got the status column. So let's change that. So I'm just going to highlight that, save myself some typing, hit Control F. All right, so there it is. I'm just going to replace that with @group.field. Ooh. @group.field data with capital D. Replace all of those instances wherever it was mentioned in that. Now we preview that. Bam. So that was very easy, sort of, right? So easy enough. But the idea is now my group header now matches that design. Now, if I go update these things, they are not linked, right? Because you can't do a column format of reference here because it is slightly different. But the idea is once I've got that configured, I can swap those things in and out. I can do it with my priority. We even have an example or sample here of doing that with a user's photo. So if you want to do like the assign to, you can go grab Tatsuya's sample over here and do that as well, kind of customize that. So woo, that's getting exciting. All right, so that's good. So let's save that. And again, we could do that with our priorities as well and our assigned to. I'm going to skip those in the interest of time, but it's the same kind of concept, right? So paste that same kind of starter and then just paste in your format to get the piece in the middle. All right, so now the other thing I want to talk about is why don't we make this even better? All right, so this is cool that it's grouped by this kind of the traditional view, right? And we've got our, advanced lightbox. Ooh, fancy. But what if we did something like we created a new view and we're going to create a board view? All right, so we're just going to call this our priority board. I find the board views can be very, very helpful for quickly moving things when you're trying to decide stuff, or seeing these just in a much more visual, easier to see what, like a card view. So let's hit create. Because we've created the priority as required, the unassigned items, for whatever reason, we can't get rid of this for right now. So that is irritating, but it does, because it's alphabetical. This is a nice little view of like, here's all our critical issues. Here's our, our high priority issues and so on as we go. It's got a nice little image view. And if we want to come up here, we could say customize the card. And we can do a few things like come down here, we'll say, don't show the column names as labels, save ourselves a little space. All right, we don't need to show priority. They're already done by that, right? We'll do the status. We'll show the assigned to. We'll even show a preview of the assigned to so we get their pretty face and so on. We could add a few more columns as we wanted to, right? We could add our date reported, and we could swap that out to our column formatter reference instead of this so that we could get our nice red. In fact, let's try that. Let's go to advanced mode now. So now what we've done is we've kind of, got our card configured the way we want using the wizard. And then we can switch to advanced mode and start customizing it from there should we want to. All right. So one of the things I want to do is I want to find the status field, right? So I'm just going to do that. Find, there's the status, right? And so we're saying here, I just want to make sure I can edit it. So right in here, I'm just going to say inline edit field. And I'm going to literally just type in status. Let's preview that. And now when I click on status, I can actually edit status, which is very cool right from the board view. All right, now let's go a little further and let's go down to our assigned to. All right, let's see, where's that? Assigned, there it is. There's our assigned to. Now, one of the things it's doing is it's hiding it, right, when it's not assigned to. I don't want to do that. So I'm actually just going to remove that. Bye. Right, we don't want that. So if I preview that, now I get that. I'm going to come down here and I say the empty text. They've got a little line. I'm just going to say unassigned. All right, that makes me feel a little better. I preview that. It looks okay. Let's add a style to that, and let's add our font style. Let's make it italic, right? And that's just on this empty text. Boom, so that looks nice. And if we come back up here, again, we can do the same kind of thing where we say our inline edit field. And in this case, it's going to be the assigned to, which has a 0 in this template. That's all right. So we preview that, and now we can assign that. All right, that's pretty cool. So now we've made it so that we could do all of that. And if we come down here, let's try and see if we can mess with that. Our date. Sorry, we got our date reported here. We got all this display value stuff, and that's exciting. But what if we did instead? All right, let's see. Instead of display value, let's just we're trying this out, by the way. We've never done this. Why not? All right, so we'll come in here and we'll say none of that. And we're just going to say column formatter reference. All right, let's see if this works. Date reported. All right, so preview that. And I'm not sure we have any red ones in here. Or if I did that right. We were trying it out. It was fun. All right. Oh, it's because I've got this display value. Either way, we'll leave that. The whole point here is, oh, there it is. The idea is we're able to kind of customize these cards, bring them in here. We can quickly see stuff. If we wanted to add that advanced light box, a version of that on here, we could, right? We wanted to add an assign me button. We could adapt our samples. The idea, though, is start with the out-of-the-box stuff, like a template, start customizing from there, and it makes things a lot easier for you. You can have a nice turkey issue list very quickly. So let's head over here to a final wrap-up. This is just so you can see what those tweaks were I did to the list that I'm recommending. Again, in the sample, I've listed those out as well. They're just a couple minor things, mostly making things required and making it just a little easier to use. You'll probably want to add some extra fields, right, like assign team or whatever else you wanted to do that makes sense for trying your issues. But again, start with this. It's great. And then here's that form body trick. If you just define those display names of the sections, then you can use the UI to do the rest. And then finally, check out the documentation. And then this sample, it has all of these different formats and things, and your starters. JSON all in it is the issue tracker enhanced. And that's it. That's it for me. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Whoa.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Really, really cool. And as I put it in the chat, really no code at all. It's no code.
Always.
Extensibility.
Always.
It's but really, really cool. And I was trying to update the title of your demo quite a few times during the setup as well. But I now tackled and agreed on start with out-of-the-box list definition, extend based on your business on your requirements. Is that good, Chris?
I was thinking turkey issues, but whatever.
There we go. Thank you. Anyway, so really, really cool. Awesome stuff. Now, let me go to the slides and we can close up for today. Thank you, Chris, also joining, even though it's Thanksgiving. So really, really cool. Now, we don't, during or outside of the community calls, you can always take advantage of our other community channels and venues and things. So Discord server is closing into 1,000 members, which is really, really cool. So I think we're in 980 right now. So if few more people are signing in, we're breaking the magical 1,000 included in that server. Super, super cool. Helpful for you to ask questions and stay up to date on what's happening and, meet other people in the community. We also are always interested on your feedback related on this community calls. How can we improve? What went well? What went maybe not that well? And if you have ideas related on community demos or all of that stuff, please fill in this form. Now, we do have that separate form if you want to present. So please sign up for that one as well. We went through that in the start of the call. You cannot access the recording directly from chat as we are closing up this call. The recording will be available at the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community YouTube channel within 24 hours. Easiest way to stay up to date there is to subscribe to that channel and you will get notified whenever the video is available. We will also share the updated video or when it's available in the Twitter and in LinkedIn and in Facebook. So you'll get notified from those channels as well. The next Microsoft 365 Power Platform bi-weekly call is on December 7th. We're closing in holiday pretty fast. Next Viva Connection SharePoint Framework is November 13th, so next Thursday. Looking forward on those as well. All of the calls at AKMS/community and calls. And that's it for today. Thank you for the presenters. Thank you for lovely chat and active chat. It's always good to see the excitement and feedback and all of that within the chat and the support what people are giving for all of the presenters as well. So awesome stuff. Happy Thanksgiving for US-based people, and let's stay in touch. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of the week.